The red-haired man sat under neon and smoked, phone pressed to his ear, posture tight. He coordinated reinforcements, bargained for fresh recruits, and ordered Hwang Kyuho to come to his office. Smoke wound through the air as he gave the terse instruction and promised to arrive after he finished. A giant spectral face loomed behind him with a single red eye fixed on the scene. Changwoo remained nearby, silent and watching the man give his orders without reaction. Suspicion still clung to the returner after the magenta light and earlier argument. The red-haired man sat beneath neon and smoked while he coordinated reinforcements by phone. He ordered Hwang Kyuho to report to his office before he finished his call. Smoke wound through the air as promises and terse instructions echoed softly. A giant spectral face loomed behind him with a single red eye fixed on the scene. Changwoo remained nearby and watched the man give orders without any visible reaction. Later, two figures arrived at a blue-lit building and searched for their target in silence. A returner remained under suspicion after the magenta light and the earlier quarrel. The red-haired man sat beneath neon and smoked as he arranged reinforcements by phone. A giant spectral face loomed behind him with a single red eye fixed on the scene. Changwoo stood nearby and watched without reaction. Later, two figures arrived at a blue-lit building and stepped from a parked BMW. One asked whether the place was familiar. The other named it the incineration plant and explained that Garso Guild members handled dungeon aftermath there. They asked if Hwang Kyuho would be waiting. One inwardly noted the other's narrow focus and felt unsettled. A returner remained under suspicion after the magenta light and the earlier quarrel. The red-haired man sat beneath neon and arranged reinforcements by phone. A giant spectral face loomed behind him, its single red eye fixed on the scene. Changwoo watched without reaction. Later, two figures arrived at a blue-lit building and stepped from a parked BMW. They discussed teams that hunted traitors and how the incineration plant handled dungeon aftermath. One asked whether Hwang Kyuho waited inside. The other agreed they must go in and check and urged the first to lead the way. The red-haired man ordered a guild member to identify himself and open the incineration plant door. A red eye flashed as a silent threat and forced an immediate reply. The man stammered his compliance and stepped forward. Two figures walked beneath blue light toward the locked doors. Station staff reported guests and asked their names. The response named Kang Hyuk as the visitor and the older brother of the late Kang Min. Tension rose as doors prepared to open and guards readied to scrutinize the newcomer. The red-haired man had ordered identification and forced the guild member to respond. Two figures walked beneath blue light toward the locked doors as station staff reported guests. Voices asked if Kang Hyuk had really come and then derided him as foolish. They said his confidence rested on being a returner and compared him to Kang Min. They blamed that same confidence for Kang Min's death. A shout cut through the corridor and urged haste. Guards stiffened and prepared to scrutinize the newcomer as the doors began to open. The red-haired man had ordered identification and forced the guild member to respond. Voices behind him questioned whether Kang Hyuk had truly come and mocked his confidence. They compared him to Kang Min and blamed that confidence for Kang Min's death. One man said he had a call from Changwoo and issued orders. He instructed staff to bring them in and to say Hwang Kyuho was present. Guards snapped to attention and replied that they understood the instruction. At the corridor's end, doors began to open as staff hurried toward them. A single figure moved alone to the console under cool blue light and waited. The corridor's murmurs lingered as a small company of figures moved forward under cool light. They advanced with steady steps while staff hurried near the corridor's end. A single figure remained at the console and observed their approach without moving. The sequence then cut to a bold page title. Purple script around a skull proclaimed that the iron-blooded Necromancer had returned. The proclamation froze the scene, leaving the arrivals unresolved and the solitary watcher poised between duty and the unknown. The corridor's tension lingered as the scene cut outside to a glass office tower under a midnight sky. The sequence moved inside to a suited man at a raised desk, addressing seated silhouettes in the gallery. He fielded questions about a newcomer and confirmed his ability remained unknown. Voices asked where the newcomer was staying and received no firm answer. The earlier proclamation of the iron-blooded necromancer still echoed, leaving the arrivals unresolved and the lone watcher poised between duty and uncertainty. The corridor's tension persisted as the scene cut to a glass tower at midnight. Inside, the representative stood at a raised desk and addressed seated silhouettes. He fielded questions about a newcomer and confirmed the newcomer's stay remained unknown. He then announced he had sent the newcomer to the penthouse where Kang Min lived and said that location allowed them to monitor his movements. Voices in the gallery pressed for more information but received no firm answer. The earlier proclamation of the iron-blooded necromancer still echoed, leaving arrivals unresolved and the lone watcher poised between duty and uncertainty. The glass tower meeting continued at midnight as the representative faced probing voices. A delegate asked if the newcomer suspected Kang Min's death. The representative denied suspicion and maintained the timing was coincidental, saying he had explained Kang Min died in an accident and that the newcomer had seemed to accept it. Murmurs pressed for proof, while the earlier iron-blooded necromancer proclamation still hung over the room. The assembly left certainty unresolved, and the lone watcher remained poised between duty and wary doubt. Discussion flared as the representative urged calm and dismissed alarm over one returner. Delegates shouted back, listing the men lost and the price paid to get rid of Kang Min. Others admitted Kang Min's strength, but doubted that his older brother Kang Hyuk would be stronger. A harsher voice insisted Kang Hyuk might surpass Kang Min and warned against rushed conclusions. Voices rose and accusations crossed the room while no verification was offered. The assembly remained divided and uncertain as the lone watcher observed, balancing duty with wary suspicion. The representative rose and dismissed alarm about a single returner, urging calm across the hall. Delegates shouted and listed the men lost to Kang Min's escape and the price paid to remove him. Some conceded Kang Min's strength, but doubted Kang Hyuk could be stronger. A harsher voice warned Kang Hyuk might surpass Kang Min and urged caution. Arguments flared while verification remained absent and the assembly split. Speakers resolved to watch Kang Hyuk closely and to remove him if he became an eyesore. The meeting organizers scheduled a follow-up at the president's office and named watchers. The representative leaned forward and ordered Hwang Sangwook to investigate Kang Hyuk's abilities. He insisted not to be contacted about other matters and complained about his heavy workload. Delegates absorbed the command in silence while tensions from earlier arguments lingered. Voices trading accusations and warnings had not yet settled. The speaker bowed and apologized to the guildmaster before departing. Attendees took the instruction as a directive to monitor Kang Hyuk closely and prepare removal if he became a threat. Plans for a follow-up at the president's office and named watchers remained in place. The representative leaned over the microphone and reiterated orders from earlier. He commanded Hwang Sangwook to investigate Kang Hyuk and then told delegates to tell the president to destroy all data regarding Kang Min. Delegates listened in silence, holding small glowing tokens as they absorbed the instruction. Voices from previous arguments still echoed in the room but did not interrupt. Attendees treated the order as a directive to monitor Kang Hyuk closely and prepare removal if he became a threat. Plans for follow-up at the president's office and named watchers remained active. The representative repeated his directive and the room fell quiet. Delegates held small glowing tokens and absorbed the instruction in silence. One delegate answered that they had already profiled Kang Hyuk on his return and described the information as a personal profile. The representative demanded ongoing monitoring and timely reports. A hand gripped and crushed a crystalline token, scattering purple shards and light across the table. Attendees treated the order as a mandate to watch Kang Hyuk closely and prepare removal if he proved a threat. Plans for follow-up at the president's office stayed active. The representative repeated his directive, and the hall fell into attentive silence. Delegates held small glowing tokens and absorbed each instruction. One delegate reported they had profiled Kang Hyuk on his return and described the file as a personal profile. The representative demanded continuous monitoring and timely reports. A hand then crushed a crystalline token, scattering purple shards and light across the table and into the audience. Attendees treated the order as a mandate to watch Kang Hyuk and prepare removal if necessary. Plans for follow-up at the president's office remained active. Someone in the assembly answered, "Understood." The representative reiterated his directive, and the hall fell silent. Delegates held small, glowing tokens. One delegate reported they had profiled Kang Hyuk and called it a personal file. The representative demanded continuous monitoring and timely reports. A hand crushed a crystalline token and scattered purple shards across the table. Attendees treated the order as a mandate to watch Kang Hyuk and prepare removal. Plans for follow-up at the president's office remained active. Someone in the assembly answered, "Understood." Later, Kang Hyuk adjusted his tie and muttered that he was always sent to meetings for scoldings. The representative issued the directive, and the chamber fell silent. Delegates gripped small glowing tokens as one reported a personal profile on Kang Hyuk. The representative demanded constant surveillance and timely reports from each department. A hand crushed a crystalline token and purple shards scattered across the polished table. Attendees treated the act as a binding mandate to watch Kang Hyuk and prepare removal options. Plans for a follow-up at the president's office remained active and coordination continued. Someone in the assembly confirmed they understood. Afterwards, Kang Hyuk straightened his tie and muttered that meetings only brought scoldings. The representative issued the directive, and the assembly moved to surveil Kang Hyuk. Meetings ended and Kang Hyuk adjusted his tie, muttering about scoldings. Later, he met two hesitant men in a corridor. The visitors said they were nervous to receive an unexpected guest. He identified himself as team leader Kim and claimed charge of the Cargo Guild's incineration plant since returning to Earth. He said he had received a call from Gwangyul, who named the visitor Kang Min, the late guildmaster's older brother. After the representative issued the directive, the assembly sent teams to watch Kang Hyuk. Meetings closed and Kang Hyuk straightened his tie while he muttered about scoldings. He later met two hesitant visitors in a glass corridor. Kim lit a cigarette and asked why they sought Kumo. Kang Hyuk's eyes flared red, and he said they did not need to explain and ordered Kumo brought out. Kim laughed and tried to disarm the moment with a quip about tone. One visitor stepped forward and warned him not to use a commanding tone inside. Following the representative's directive, teams began watching Kang Hyuk and meetings closed. Kang Hyuk smoothed his tie and muttered about scoldings. He met two hesitant visitors in a glass corridor and they approached him. Kim lit a cigarette and asked why they sought Kumo. Kang Hyuk said they did not need to explain and ordered NewAgeManhwa brought. The visitors refused and insisted they would not betray their guild members. He remained composed and gave them one strict chance to comply. One visitor joked about two chances, while another thought he showed no anger. After the representatives' order teams monitored Kang Hyuk and meetings ended. Kang Hyuk smoothed his tie and met two hesitant visitors in a glass corridor. They addressed team leader Kim and asked for Kang Hyuk by name. Kim lit a cigarette and spoke about the guild's loss of awareness. He implied the guild had sent older kin to give orders now. One visitor laughed aloud. Kang Hyuk showed no anger and stayed composed. Kim's mouth curved into a close smile and the panel cut to him. A dark caption then announced the number of souls nearby. After the representatives' order teams monitored Kang Hyuk and meetings ended. Kang Hyuk stood calm in a glass corridor. Two hesitant visitors confronted him and mentioned Kang Min by name while urging him to wake. Kim smoked and denied any sleep. Voices taunted him and called him psycho. One voice proposed killing him after playing with him. Blue-green necromantic energy surged, and skeletons materialized around Kang Hyuk. He remained composed as the crowd paused and threats hung in the charged air. The skeletons burst forward while blue necromantic flame licked the glass corridor walls. A high scream cut across the room as faces distorted in a reflection shard. Kang Hyuk watched without flinching while a teammate reeled under a strike. Blood arced and blue energy surged around the wounded figure on the floor. He whispered team, then drew a handgun, jaw set and eyes narrow. Kang Hyuk fired twice, muzzle flashes cut through the necrotic light and smoke. The crowd froze as bullets met flesh, and the corridor filled with chaos. The skeletons burst through glass as blue necromantic flame licked the corridor walls. A skull punched free of shattered glass and spun in the light. Faces warped in reflection shards, while nearby civilians gasped and froze. Kang Hyuk stood unreadable as a teammate collapsed under a strike and blood arced. Blue energy cocooned the wounded figure and drew shocked stares. He said team, then drew a handgun and took a steady stance. He fired twice and muzzle flashes cleaved the necrotic haze. Observers wondered if he imbued bullets with magic as chaos consumed the corridor. Necrotic warriors had already torn through the corridor and shards still glittered when a flaming skull dropped headfirst. Glass sprayed outward as the skull struck and a red flare cut the air. Kang Hyuk cursed at the sudden assault and dropped to a knee to reassess the scene. He fired earlier and then moved again when the falling corpse threatened the group. He sprang forward with a hard kick through debris while light streaks traced the hall. Observers watched him shift from defense to counterattack as alarms and energy ripples filled the space. Necrotic warriors had already torn through the corridor, shards still glittered on the floor. A flaming skull dropped headfirst and exploded glass outward with a red flare. Kang Hyuk cursed and dropped to a knee to reassess the scene. He had fired earlier and moved again when a falling corpse threatened them. He sprang forward with a hard kick through debris while light streaks traced the hall. Projectiles zipped past as he rolled and slammed onto the tile, sparks flying. A cloaked skeletal assailant advanced, firing glowing rounds that shattered nearby tiles. Kang Hyuk grimaced, saw bullets miss by inches, and readied his small pistol. He muttered that fighting was difficult without magic bullets and braced for more. Necrotic skeletons continued to swarm the corridor, hands raking at exposed limbs. Kang Hyuk pushed through the grasping hands and kicked through debris toward a windowed door. Glass exploded in a red flare as something struck it from outside. He planted his feet and raised his pistol, fingers tight on the grip. A voice cut through chaos asking where the shot had come from. Blood burst across a panel when a bullet slammed into a head. The pistol spun free and sank into a shallow pool of water streaked with blood. The necrotic skeletons pressed in the corridor, their bony hands scraping exposed flesh. Kang Hyuk lay on the floor, bleeding, his pistol sliding into a blood-streaked puddle. He coughed and grabbed a secondary blade as the dead leaned closer. He forced the blade forward and pierced one skeleton's torso, red spray staining the steel. The sword spun in shallow water, its edge streaked with dark blood. Kang Hyuk spat and swore as more corpses closed in, bracing for the next strike. The necrotic skeletons pressed the corridor, with bony hands scraping exposed flesh. Kang Hyuk lay on the floor bleeding, and his pistol slid into a blood puddle. He coughed and drove a secondary blade into a skeleton's torso, drawing bright blood. He then fired the pistol and flame wrapped the barrel, releasing a concussive blast. The blast swept the reanimated corpses away in a tidal burst of force. Kang Hyuk was thrown through the air, his body tumbling across bright water-like light. He crashed down and struggled to his knees, coughing up air and blood. A teammate shouted in alarm and raced forward demanding answers and help. Kang Hyuk spat and barked for everyone to arm up and eliminate them. Kang Hyuk forced his foot down and rushed deeper into the corridor. Blood soaked his shirt as he ran, his shoulder searing with injury. Reanimated skeletons pressed around him, their bony hands scraping exposed flesh. He stabbed a blade into one corpse and fired his pistol at point-blank range. The blast wrapped the barrel in flame and sent the horde flying backward. The concussive force hurled him through a bright water-like light, and he crashed to the floor coughing blood. A teammate shouted and surged forward. Kang Hyuk spat blood and ordered everyone to arm up and eliminate them. He then faced a silent figure whose eye glowed red.